What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Inside Inter Miami. Your host, Andre Fernandez, joined once again by my co-host, Inter Miami beat writer Michelle Kaufman, back with another eventful week for Inter Miami. When's it not eventful with this team? They beat
Always,
Tigres. Yeah,
always.
always. There's always something to talk about. They beat Tigres without Lionel Messi in the Leagues Cup quarterfinals with two PKs, not one, two PKs from the re-energized Luis Suarez, who's back and in getting back to his old form a little bit and just at the right time for this team, but a lot of drama as Javier Mascherano got ejected at halftime, but still was able to bark some instructions, call some plays. We'll get into that whole what's the point of having a coach ejected when they can kind of still direct the action from the stands. And we'll talk about a little bit of what went viral on social media regarding that. He is suspended for the upcoming Leagues Cup semifinal against that hated Orlando team. If you're an Inter Miami fan, they have a rematch coming in the Leagues Cup this week. We'll talk a little bit about that, some of the changes made to the starting lineups, and also a fairly disappointing tie with DC United. A chance to get 3 points, only ended up getting 1 point. We'll get into that a little bit. And Sergio Busquets talked a little bit about his potential future. He hasn't re-signed with the club just yet. We know he's getting up there in his higher 30s at this point. How much more does he have left in the tank? We'll talk a little bit about that. But let's talk first. Let's review that crazy quarterfinal, Michelle, and the fact that Inter Miami 2 steps away from one of those trophies that they wanted to obtain this year, but a big obstacle in their way on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterfinal was wild. I don't know, this team, it's just it doesn't seem like there's ever just sort of a normal, boring 3-1 win with no drama, with no controversy. There's always controversy, whether it's with the refs, with something. It often involves the refs, let's admit it. Anyway, but in this case, it did too. So Lionel Messi was not playing. Everyone with the fans, everybody was very concerned. How are they going to win against Tigres, a very good Mexican team, without Messi? But he was unable to play, and his friend Luis Suarez comes to the rescue with not one but two PKs, and not only two PKs, but two PKs off handballs by the same player. I mean, how often do you see that the same player has two handballs in the box? Both of them lead to PKs, and that's how Miami ends up winning that game. So that was a pretty wild result just in and of itself. But then, halftime of the game, unbeknownst to a lot of the people watching the game until a little while, like, wait a minute, where is Mascherano? Why is Javier Mascherano not on the sideline? Because the ejection happened at halftime. It did not happen on the field, so nobody saw it happen. So all of a sudden, the second half is starting. There's assistant coaches running around looking confused. The fans are confused. The media is confused. Where's Masha? Where's Masha? What happened? Why is he ejected from the game? And then all of a sudden, he appears, his little bald head, shiny head, appears in the front row, just over the bench, literally within earshot of the team. And he's going crazy. He's gesturing. He's on his phone, screaming into the phone. You're saying, wait a minute, he just got ejected, but he's still, in essence, kind of coaching the team from the front row. What did you make of that? And then we had a very entertaining interview with Javier Mascherano, where he discussed what exactly happened. And it was really, he's really fun to interview, especially when it's something heated like this. He had a lot of fun dealing with some tough questions from the media. But what do you make of that, Andre, of like ejecting the coach, but then he's coaching from the front row?
I mean, it's a little pointless, I think, because I think I may have seen that before, maybe in high school football, where they're getting the stands, and then maybe they're not like their cell phone, but maybe they're like shouting and pointing to an assistant coach, do this, do that. I know somewhere Bobby Valentine's probably pissed because I remember those back in the day. If people remember the baseball, he had to come out into the dugout with a fake mustache, hiding after he got ejected. I mean, do you imagine if they just allowed like every in baseball or other sports, they just let the manager come back and like even if they're far away, I mean, you're just separating a little bit of distance, but in essence, you're not preventing them from still
Right.
doing
And
their
what he
job.
said Right.
And he was on. I mean, he was literally directing traffic from the front row. I mean,
from the front row, leaning over the railing. I mean, everybody
yeah,
like, what the heck is going on? And
yeah,
he said, and we're going to hear from him in detail, but he basically said, "Hey, I'm not the one who configured this stadium. It just so happens that the seats at Inter Miami Chase Stadium are very close to the field.
I
And
mean,
given a
when
choice of sitting up in the stands, and he said
yeah,
sending smoke signals from the stands or being a,
yeah.
I'm
I
going to,
mean, look, when like I use the baseball example a lot, but like when a manager gets the hook, they got to stay in the clubhouse. They're
right.
not allowed to just go into the stands or go to the bullpen or something like. No, they're like out of
Right. And in
sight.
other stadiums, right. And in other stadiums in soccer, they typically go to the team suites, which are up high by the press box. So they are
Right.
like in an enclosed glass suite. And yes, they can call on a cell phone to the bench, but they're not usually right there in person. In this case, the Inter Miami team suites and VIP seats are basically right next to the bench in the owner's suites and
I just
right
thought it was
over the
funny.
bench. So let's hear first. We have a couple of clips. Here's the first clip from Javier Mascherano. Let's go. ¿Qué pasó con la tarjeta roja del principio al final? ¿Qué pasó y cómo explicas de tu punto de vista? Gracias.
¿Mi tarjeta roja?
Sí.
No soy tan importante, Michelle. Nada, hubo una discusión ahí al final de la primera parte, donde el árbitro había dado 4 minutos de añadido y se jugaron 6. Discutí con el cuarto árbitro, no lo insulté, no, pero sí lo discutí quizás con bastante vehemencia y nada, entré al vestuario, me dijeron tené cuidado, pues ahí habían dicho que quizás se había rumoreado, porque yo normalmente entro muy rápido al vestuario. Entré al vestuario, me dijeron tené cuidado, pues puede que el árbitro te saque una amarilla, te pueda amonestar o expulsar. Bueno, nada, estuve en el vestuario, cuando salgo al segundo tiempo me siento en el banco, viene el árbitro y me saca la roja. Fue simplemente eso.
Javier.
No mucho más.
Y después
Sí.
de sentarte explica todo eso, porque hay mucha...
Sentarme, donde me senté se puede sentar, es la gradería, no. Ahora, da la casualidad que el estadio del Inter Miami, las tribunas están muy cerca del campo y bueno, quería estar lo más cerca posible, nada más.
¿El próximo partido contra Orlando te vas a sentar entonces en el mismo lugar?
Veremos, capaz lo veo en mi casa.
¿Te parece correcto? Hablabas al inicio del torneo.
¿Por qué no es correcto si yo estuve en la tribuna?
Te voy a terminar la
Sí.
pregunta. Al principio del torneo hablabas de la seriedad, de que el árbitro tiene que ser neutral. ¿Te parece que es lo más sano para el deporte que el entrenador expulsado pueda hablar con sus asistentes y jugadores?
Primero que dependerá, mira, ha pasado miles de veces y seguirá pasando. Yo me acato a las reglas y no incumplí ninguna regla, es decir, no podía estar en el banco, no estuve en el banco. Me podría inclusive haber sentado en una suite, porque es parte de la gradería. Y no me senté en una suite. Es decir, podría haber estado al lado del banco, es decir, en la suite al lado de los dueños, me podría haber sentado, porque es parte de, yo no tengo la culpa cómo está configurado el estadio. Me fui y me senté en la gradería arriba. Ahora, por la cercanía me convenía estar ahí, sí. ¿Me necesitaba el equipo ahí? Sí. Y si me necesitan mis jugadores y mi equipo, voy a estar ahí. Y pagaré las consecuencias que tenga que pagar, no hay problema. Pero yo voy a estar siempre a disposición de lo que necesiten mis jugadores. Y yo sentía que mis jugadores en ese momento necesitaban que esté ahí. Pero no, más allá de eso, no incumplí porque preguntamos a la League Cup si yo podía estar sentado ahí y la League Cup me dijo, sí, es gradería, es la tribuna. Ahora, un poco más arriba, un poco más abajo, eso es indistinto. Yo elegí estar más cerca, nada más.
¿Crees que eso?
Claramente, si no me hubiesen sacado. O si no, lo normal, ¿sabes qué es? Pueden parar el partido y te dicen, no, andate de acá hasta no incumplí ninguna regla, nadie me dijo que no podía estar ahí.
He's just a good little
This is
boy.
great.
He didn't do anything wrong.
By
He's
the
like a
book.
kid, a kid who's getting in trouble. I didn't break any rules. He's saying, look,
You said the
here's what
stands.
happened.
You didn't say where in the
I was
stands.
sitting in the stands. They didn't say where in the stands, whether close or far. They said sit in the stands. I was sitting in the stands. Don't blame me. I had nothing to do with how the seats are configured in Chase Stadium. In the Inter Miami Stadium, the seats happen to be very, very close to the field. And hey, if I can be closer to my team, I'm going to be closer. First of all, he said exactly what happened is he said that at halftime, he was arguing with the fourth official that they had added 4 minutes of time and they played 6 minutes of extra time. So there were 2 extra minutes. He was disputing that. He said, I did not insult him. Yes, I did argue vehemently. He said, I argued vehemently, but I did not insult him. I went into the locker room. I was told in the locker room, hey, you better be careful. They may give you a yellow card. They may fine you. They could even throw you out. You better be careful. He said, I went back out for the second half. I sat on the bench and they pulled out a red card and they threw me out. Now, they told me I had to go sit in the stands. I went and sat in the stands. I didn't break any rules. He said, my team needed me. I'm going to be as close as I can be and I will pay the consequences. And he said, but I repeat, I did not break any rules. He said, in fact, they could have come and, we asked. He said, we asked, can I sit here? And the Leagues Cup officials said yes. And he said, so we asked permission. They told me I could sit there. And if they wanted, they could have told me to sit elsewhere. They could have even stopped the game and told me to sit elsewhere, but they didn't. So therefore, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't break any rules. Then he was asked by another reporter, well, but in the spirit of the game, do you think it's right that a coach who's been ejected can still be sitting there coaching? And, do you think you might sit there again? If you're saying that you didn't break any rules, is that where you're going to sit for the Orlando game? And he said, well, I don't know. I may just watch from home. I may just watch that
I
one
love
from
that.
home. But
I love that.
yeah, that was funny. But anyway, so he vehemently saying, look, I didn't break any rules. Yes, I was close. I didn't break any rules.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like that he has his players back, and that kind of shows you that, he's full on player. He's, since the beginning, he's kind of struck me as like the player's coach. He's obviously not that far off in age
Definitely.
from these guys. He knows them. He's like their besties,
Right.
all of that. But yeah, technically, he didn't break any rules when it comes to
Technically, he
where
didn't
he was
do
supposed to
anything
be
wrong.
at.
Technically, he didn't
It
do
kind of,
wrong.
if
But he
if
had
anything,
more to
this is
say,
one of
but
those moments.
yeah.
This is one of those moments that's going to stir up the league now to kind of review policies and look at
And
how do
they
we
will. And by the
handle
way, it will
all
be
that.
interesting to see where is he going to be seated for the Orlando game, because what I was told from league officials is that he will be seated in an area designated by Leagues Cup officials. They did not say where that designated area is. My guess is that it's not going to be in the front row right above the bench. He is going to be seated in the stadium, but in a designated area. Let's hear what else he had to say, because this went on and he was actually enjoying.
Oh, yeah.
At one point, the PR guy said, this is the last question. The last question, he said, no, vamos a seguir. A mí me gusta. A mí me gusta. I like this. Let's continue.
Yeah.
So let's see what else did he have to say about this controversy and drama.
Es que yo no le di la indicación, o cuando entró Noah Allen, o entraron los cambios, vos me viste que Noah Allen o alguien vino al lado mío y yo le indiqué, o se lo indicaron a
Benja sí vi que indicaste algo táctico, sí.
¿A Benja?
Sí.
No, los que fueron, sí, pero los que fueron a indicárselo, yo le puedo gritar, pero los que le fueron a indicar qué es lo que tenía que hacer en la pelota parada, en los centros, cómo defender, cómo atacar, sí. Después, si vos te parás en el medio de la tribuna y querés hacer con una bengala señales de humo y que el jugador te vea, ¿por qué no lo puedo hacer? Al final estoy en la misma posición que cualquier espectador. Ahora, estará entre el jugador primero. Qué bueno que los jugadores me hacen tanto caso. Entonces, significa que soy buen entrenador, che. Tengo Me parece que están armando algo que no. Miren, chicos, el fútbol es los jugadores, los entrenadores, tratamos de ayudar. Y te vuelvo a repetir, si está bien o está mal, yo me adapté a las reglas. Lo otro es, voy a hacer todo lo que sea posible para ayudar a mis jugadores. Si a alguien le parece mal, me parece perfecto. Se hacen tantas cosas mal, mirá si yo no voy a poder hacer alguna mal.
He
Yeah.
just, I mean, you gotta love him.
Animated.
You know, love or hate him. The guy, he's so dramatic. He's so dramatic. He's like, the reporter asked him, do you think it's okay that you were actually giving instructions to the
Right.
players? You're supposed to be ejected from the game. You are still influencing the game and you are still giving What? Me giving instructions? Did you see me actually giving instructions to the players when Noah Allen came in, when other players came in? Did you see me giving instructions to them? And then he said, no, it was, the assistants were giving the instructions. Then the reporter answered back, no, I saw you giving instructions to Benha. He said, oh, well, you mean from the stands that I was
Yeah.
giving instructions? Well, yeah, anybody can stand in the middle of the stands with a flare and make smoke signals. He said,
Hey.
any fan can stand there and make flare and smoke signals to the players. And that's exactly what I was just a fan.
Hey,
I was like a regular fan. I could have made smoke signals.
this is not him criticizing the design of Chase Stadium. He's saying something to his players right there, or somebody.
Yeah, so he said, and wow, and then to add to the drama, and wow, incredible how the players listen to me and pay attention to me and have my full attention. I must be a great coach. I must be a really great coach that the players are all paying attention to me when I'm making my smoke signals from the stands. So basically, he said, you guys are making a scandal out of nothing. I didn't break any rules, and that's that.
No, and
So
I don't think,
anyway, it
and I'm not saying we're not saying he did, but I think it's just interesting how this may affect policy now when it comes to ejected coaches. And I was going to ask you, since it was a Leagues Cup match, and like you said, this has to be handled now by Leagues Cup, officials and whatnot. How does that affect how MLS looks at it when they have a coach kicked out of a game at some point? How
right.
does that affect
Well, League's Cup, yeah,
league policy? I mean.
League's Cup is basically MLS. MLS is hosting this tournament,
Mm,
and Liga MX is the other league. There are two leagues in this tournament, but MLS is the host. All the
right.
games are in MLS stadium. So yes, I do think it is people in the MLS office and League's Cup officials from the two leagues that are making these determinations. And I think we're already going to see a change in this game against Orlando on Wednesday night. I
I'm
don't
sure.
think, even though they did not ask him to move, and he's absolutely right. They did not ask him to move. He officially did not break any rules. And by the way, I got it in writing also that they are allowed to use cell phones and communication. They are allowed to communicate. Once you've been ejected, you are allowed to communicate with the bench, with your staff. So he did not break any rules there. As far as where he was seated, he was sitting in the stands. Nobody asked him to move. So he didn't break any rules. Now, going forward, I don't think we'll see on Wednesday night. I don't think he's going to be seated in the same place. All I've been told is he's going to be seated in an area designated by Leagues Cup officials. They have not said where that area is. I would be surprised if it's section 101, row 1, which is where he was. I also don't think he'll be watching from his house either. I think he will be in the stadium, but probably farther away.
Yeah. Well, Mascherano will be there for sure in some capacity, wherever he's allowed to be, wherever they review this whole situation and deem him able to be. Now, the good news for Inter Miami is that it looks like, from all indications, from what I'm reading from your story, Michelle, today, Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba back at training and likely going to be back in the lineup. That's a big boost for this team heading into this Orlando matchup. What's the latest on them?
Yeah, absolutely. They didn't travel. They didn't travel, and Ustadi didn't travel to DC. They really chose to use the DC game as a game to rest everybody. There were 8 changes in the starting lineup for that game. 8 changes from the Tigres game to the DC game. There were only 3 regular starters who played in that game. None of the Barcelona guys played in that game. Ustadi didn't travel. Yannick Bright wasn't in the starting lineup. I mean, they went with a second team, basically, other than 3 players. Some of these guys had played before, but like Ryan Saylor got to start. Ryan Saylor had played 5 minutes this whole season. David Ruiz had not played since March 13th. He had not played since March 13th, and he started. Ryan Saylor started. So they went with a patchwork lineup against DC. They rested everybody. And, in doing so, that was a pretty good indication already that Messi was going to play in this next game against Orlando because,
Right.
and by the way, he was not on the injury list. So he was not listed as injured. He was home because he was rested. And Ustadi also rested, not on the injury list. So they were resting the team for this Orlando game, which we're gonna preview in a minute. But this game is really big. So everybody wants to play in this game, and they wanted to rest them during the DC game. So they come out with this makeshift lineup. Mascherano said, look, I told the guys at halftime because they were losing to them. They were losing 1-0 to the worst team in MLS. But you have to remember, these guys have not played together. Some of these guys have barely played at all season. And then you throw them all together, arroz con mango, as we say, throw them all together in a blender and say, here you guys go out and play a game. I mean, that's hard to do. They had no chemistry. They had no, playing time together. Even so, they were holding their own. They were doing okay, but they were down 1. And then in the second half, around the 50 or 55th minute, he brings in Suarez, Busquets, DePaul, and Baltasar Rodriguez. Those four came in. And I got to say, everybody was watching, the game changed. Although they had been more intense even from the start of the second half, once those 4 came in, everything started to move better. And the golazo from Baltasar Rodriguez. And by the way, Baltasar Rodriguez came in and on his first touch hit the post, had a great shot that hit the post on his first touch. And then a couple minutes later, he scores a hell of a goal with a cross by Rodrigo de Paul. So, they end up salvaging a tie, which is better than nothing, but it was only 1 point. It was not really, they wanted 3 points from that game. They got 1. So they came back with 1 point, but they did get to rest a lot of players. And now they're all going to be ready for the big showdown, the rematch, the revenge match against Orlando.
Yeah, the big revenge match. I know this game doesn't affect that, but just to give people perspective, these 2 teams separated by 1 point right now in the MLS standings. Obviously, this is different. This is Leagues Cup, but again, how close these 2 are. It seems like they're always running into each other. And let's see what happens in this one. As far as the MLS standings, they still have those 3 games in hand. And on a housekeeping note, that Chicago game that was supposed to be Saturday has now been moved to September 30th to make room because Miami, as we know, win or lose in this game, is going to play this weekend either for the Leagues Cup championship, or if they lose, they'll be in the 3rd place match in the Leagues Cup. So either way, there's a different match. But talk about a high and low on that.
Either way, they're going out west.
And talk about a high and low though, because if they're playing for the title, obviously it's all hands on deck, all in. But if they're playing in that 3rd place match, I feel like, again, we may see a resting opportunity for a lot of these.
Well, maybe not though, because maybe not, because the top 3 teams, the reason that there is a 3rd place game, the top 3 teams advance to the CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Oh, okay. So there is an incentive.
There is something on the line. The bronze medal.
I was more asking because, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, what is the point of a bronze medal game? The bronze medal game is because the 3rd place team does go to the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So there are 4 teams left and 3 spots for the CONCACAF. So they are playing for something, even if they're in the 3rd place game. Both of those will be out west, either against Seattle or against LA Galaxy. And that was the other reason Mascherano said that they wanted to rest players, because they were playing a bunch of games in a row, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. And the game Sunday, whether it's Seattle or LA, they're going to have to fly out west after this game against Orlando. They'd probably fly out on Friday. So they have a long trip to go either way. So that's why they wanted some players to get some rest after this long string of 1 million games that they've been playing. And now they get Orlando. This rivalry
Yeah.
I wrote about it in my story, in my preview. This has always been a great rivalry. We talked about it last week about Disney World versus, Disney and Mickey Mouse versus the glitz and
Versus
glamour and
South Beach.
sexiness of Miami. But in addition to that, with these two teams, the first time we really saw the intensity of this rivalry is right when Messi got here in July of 2023. For those who don't remember,
The mural.
there were beautiful murals of Messi that were painted in downtown Miami in an area called Wynwood, the Wynwood Walls, of this beautiful Messi mural. And all of a sudden there was purple paint all over it. And whoever put through the purple paint on there, which, by the way, what is the color of Orlando City? Purple. They threw purple paint on there and they put Florida is purple. Okay. That's kind of their motto. They yelled
what
it.
they were chanting when they were up by 3 the other day.
What they were chanting in the 4-1 game 2 weeks ago was Florida is purple. Those exact words were on the mural of Messi with purple paint defacing the Messiah, Lionel Messi. So when that happened in July of 23, I said to myself, this is a true rivalry now. If they are willing to throw purple paint on Lionel Messi's mural, this is serious stuff now. Okay. This is serious. And ever since then, whenever they play Orlando against Miami, it's nasty. The chance, to be honest, I don't know if I would take my children to these particular games, young kids, because the language is vulgar that they're yelling at these games, as we heard already in the 4-1 game the other day. This is a heated rivalry. By the way, after that mural incident, 2 weeks later, these two teams played in the League's Cup round of 32. Okay. And in that game, Messi scored 2 goals. But not only did he score 2 goals, he got his first yellow card in MLS. He argued with a player nonstop, and he argued with the referee, got a yellow card. So it was clear that already Lionel Messi already had it in for Orlando, and he had only been here for 2 weeks. So imagine now they're having a rematch, Orlando against Miami in a semifinal. The winner of this game goes to the final, okay? And on top of that, Orlando has beaten them 3-0 and 4-1 this season, a combined score of 7-1. You think Miami wants to win this game? You think Miami wants to win this game?
Here's the thing. Normally, you would say to someone in Orlando that does that defaces the mural and defaces Messi, and you're like, you don't know who you're effing with. But here's the problem. Inter Miami hasn't provided the backlash, hasn't provided the necessary backlash to a you don't know who you're effing with response. On the contrary, they have come in, defaced the mural, kicked their,
their
just going to
heinies.
say it, twice.
Their tushies, yes.
With or without him, because at least if he hadn't played in either one of them, you could have that as a crutch and say, okay, you still haven't faced him on the field. No, they did it with him on the field.
With him on the field, they won 3-0. With him on the field at home, at Chase Stadium, with Messi there, they won 3-0.
The only thing, I guess, the only tiny thing I'm curious about is how this team responds now that they've been slapped in the face twice. And the fact that loss with Messi did happen at a point in the season where they were completely in a massive funk. Now they've generally been playing better overall in recent weeks and last couple of months, you name it. So I'm curious, with all of this on the line, in a semifinal of a tournament, do or die, we know how this team gets up in moments like this.
They love these games.
More than just a random regular season game. One where it's all on the line, they get up for it. Even if they have a slow start, they find a way to recover, all that stuff. I'm curious if that happens on Wednesday night.
Yeah, we talked to Ian Frey and Noah Allen. We're going to hear from Noah Allen now. These are two guys who grew up in South Florida, Noah Allen in Pembroke Pines, Ian Frey in Coconut Creek. And they both talked about how from the time they were young and playing youth sports, when a team from South Florida is playing a team from Orlando, they want to beat those teams. Let's hear what Noah Allen had to say about that.
First of all, it was a great privilege to wear the armband. Super blessed and grateful for it. Grateful for my teammates, the coaching staff, for my family, my parents. It was a dream come true, and for me, it was something that I never imagined, honestly. So super grateful for that. Ready to keep going. And in regards to the rivalry, it's a big rivalry. Obviously, we're Orlando and Miami is the younger part of MLS. You know, I mean, Orlando's obviously a bit older in club wise, but you know, it's still fresh MLS teams, right? So the rivalry's still building. But yeah, and since youth academies, you know, the truth is, you know, I've hated Orlando, you know, just playing against them, and it's not, you know, anything personal. It's just because, you know, it's a rivalry that was built up since day one, that in Florida rivalries. So, you know, I have a lot of respect for the players and obviously the club, but, you know, the goal is every time we play them is to beat them, right? And to continue that rivalry, and it's a fierce rivalry. I mean, since, you know, our first year, you know, there's been games where players kicking each other and fouling each other, so it's definitely a competitive rivalry. And even when I was in Western FC in Academy, they didn't like playing them, you know, it was always a rivalry then, so it's kind of a South Florida to North Florida thing, and we want to represent South Florida in a good way.
Thank you. Yeah, Noah Allen was talking, first of all, about the fact that we didn't mention it. In that game the other day, it was such a makeshift lineup. They had Noah Allen was the captain. Noah Allen wore the captain's armband,
Wow.
a 21-year-old kid from Pembroke Pines who was playing at
There you go.
Weston FC not too long ago.
Yep.
And he is the captain, was the captain for an MLS game, you know, with all these stars on the team. Of course, a lot of them were sitting, but it was a great honor for him. And he said it was a dream come true for him and his family, for him to wear the captain's armband in an MLS game at such a young age. And, you know, he's talking about the rivalry between Orlando and Miami. It's just, it runs no matter what the sport is, and whether it's high school football, high school basketball, soccer, youth soccer, academies from Orlando versus academies from South Florida. It's an in-state rivalry, and it's a good one. But it's going to be a spicy. It's going to be a spicy game. It's going to be a really good game, I think. I think it's going to be a very emotional game. I do wonder about yellow cards and red cards. Miami is a volatile team. Miami has a tendency to have some hotheads. Mascherano won't be on the sideline, so he can't get thrown out. But a lot of the players on that team are hot-headed, and it's going to be interesting. We asked Mascherano also. He is not going to be able to be on the sideline, but what does he expect from this game? Let's hear what Javier Mascherano had to say.
Última pregunta.
Bueno, para el
Sí.
miércoles.
No, para, podemos un poquito más, dale, que me gusta. Dale, vamos.
Pensando en el miércoles, dado que fue el último partido contra Orlando, una derrota 4-1, ¿lo consideran revancha?
No, revancha no, pero claramente, es decir, no fue el último partido, fueron los dos últimos partidos, donde en dos partidos Orlando nos convirtió 7 goles, nos superó los dos partidos, tanto en casa como fuera. Claramente este es un partido totalmente diferente. ¿Por qué? Porque hay un montón de condimentos que no tuvieron los partidos de la temporada regular. El mayor condimento es el premio de jugar una final. Y saber que es a un solo partido, es decir, la misma situación que tuvimos el otro día contra Tigre, así que tratar de hacerlo de la mejor manera. Claramente vamos a tener que dar un paso adelante y mejorar mucho de lo que hicimos contra ellos si queremos poder competir y tener opciones de pasar a la final.
So he said he was asked, oh, by the way, you know, they were trying to cut him off and say, oh, last question. He said, no, let's keep going. I like this. I like this. He was asked, is it a revenge match? He said, well, I don't know if I'd call it a revenge match, but definitely no question. They beat us twice by lopsided scores. They beat us badly. But he said, I think this is a totally different game. This is a different situation. Why? Because it is a one-time do or die game for a chance for a spot in a final. He said, this is, you know, they're treating it like a final. He said, this is not just a regular season game. This is a game that's one game, do or die for a spot in the final. And he said, you know, we have to improve. We have to improve clearly from what they did in the first two games. By the way, we've asked Ian Frey and some other players, what is it that they do? Why are they so hard for Miami to beat? What did they do in the first two games? And I also spoke to Taylor Twellman today, the Apple TV commentator. I had an interview with him set up this morning, and he said the same thing that Ian Frey said, almost identical, almost verbatim. They both said that what Orlando does is that their offense has become very unpredictable, that they used to be predictable and teams were able to defend them better. And now they are, what Ian Frey and Taylor said, their movement, they are moving in and out of spaces and trying to confuse the defenders. And they both said that their unpredictability in their attack right now is what makes them, it's a tricky team to defend. And they have legs. They have legs. And by the way, we all know, we've been watching Miami for a long time now. If there's a team that can play well on the ball and have some possession and can run and has speed and pace, they give Miami trouble because Miami does not have speed. We've mentioned it many times. They've got great players with great skill, but they are not guys who in transition, when they get caught in transition, when they get caught on the counterattack, they often suffer and you see them racing back and trying to catch up. So that is where Orlando has been able to hurt them. And they are going to have to make adjustments. If they play the way they played the previous two times, they're going to lose again.
Yeah, that's where you see like the impact of Rodrigo de Paul coming in with that speed, with that
With the energy.
ability to make up closing speed, both not just on the
Yes.
attack, but even on backing up and things of that nature. But you're right, they don't have that much of that all the way around. And guys like Muriel for Orlando just toasted them, especially
Yes.
in this recent game. I mean, you know, you spoke to Wellman like you talked about. He said it on the broadcast, and he's right. That game was 4-1 and very easily could have been like 7-1 had it not been for a few misses by Orlando, a couple saves by Ustari in key moments. It could have been a whole lot worse. I mean, they could have really, really embarrassed them in that game because they thoroughly outplayed them. And that's the part
Yeah,
that
they have thoroughly outplayed them
Yeah.
both times. I mean, this is going to have to be a completely different game. And I know, I mean, I can tell just from talking to them and from the train, whatever. They are highly motivated for this game. They are highly motivated, but they're going to have to play very different from how they played in the previous two games because their coach and their players, they've got Miami figured out. They've got Miami figured out.
I feel like even more this last game because you could almost, and not to use it as a crutch, but the first one, again, they were kind of mired in that weird, losing
Yeah,
streak
they were
they were in.
spiraling downward.
Yeah.
They were bad. Yeah.
Right, but they've been a lot better. Even without Messi that day, they've been a lot better. They feel like they're playing more into form. And then here comes this wrecking ball, and they just got crushed. And again, that could have, don't even look at 4-1. It could have been a lot worse. It was probably the worst loss, one of the, if not the worst loss of the season in a league game, because they just got thoroughly just punched in the face and had, other than that one response right at the beginning of the game, they really didn't do much beyond that. So I think their pride's been
They were
finally hurt.
embarrassed.
We're
They
talking
were
about
very embarrassed.
we're
They were
talking about
totally
like
embarrassed.
we're talking about they like, do they lack a little motivation against an MLS team? They've got it now. So let's see.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it should be fun. Yeah. And then finally, we talked to Sergio Busquets today.
Right.
And he said some of the same things about the game that he said, look, even though he's newer to the rivalry, but he called it a clásico. He's played a lot of times Barcelona against Real Madrid. We know it's not, we're not going to say this is Barcelona against Real Madrid, but
Right.
he said it's a clásico. He called it a clásico. And he said, whenever you play those kind of games, you want to win at all costs. You're going to, teams want to win at all costs. Everything is on the line. Everything is at stake. And, he really enjoys games like that and all this. And then Busquets was asked, have you made a decision about your future? What are you thinking about your future? Because he's 37. His contract is expiring at the end of this year. And he is not. Jordi Alba signed a contract extension. Ustari signed a contract extension. Suarez has not. Busquets has not. So that's been a big question mark. And Messi, of course, we're still waiting. And Busquets said, there's no news yet. He's had a smile on his face. He said, there's no news. I have no news to report. There's no news of a contract extension yet. There's no news of any plan of retirement. When there is news, I will share it with you and we can speak in detail. Right now, I'm enjoying this stage of my career. And there is no news yet on now. The one thing, then there was a follow-up question that said, the reporter asked, well, let's ask this, even if you haven't said, if you don't know yet, or you don't want to tell us yet, is this going to be your last club? Will you retire from Inter Miami whenever it is? Or is there a chance that you would entertain offers from elsewhere? And he said, no. He said, when I left Spain, that meant that I am not going back to Spain, and I am not going back to Europe. That is understood. I'm not going back to Spain. I'm not going back to Europe. That he came here for professional and personal reasons, and he has no intention of going to play anywhere else. So he will, as far as we know, and as far as he's indicating, he will finish his career here in Miami. And the question will be, will he finish it at the end of this season? Or will we see Sergio Busquets next year at Miami Freedom Park for one more year? That's what's up in the air.
Well, that's a dream, obviously, if they would get these guys to go do one more season together, one more run for the four.
One last hurrah.
Well, the
One
five
last
now.
hurrah.
They're
Then
not only the four. Now they're
they
the
could
five.
ride off into the sunset. Other than Jordy is signed through, I think, 27 or 28, and DePaul is also signed for long term. But for Messi, Suarez, and Busquets, if they all were to come back and have one last hurrah, all five of those guys together in the new stadium, that would definitely sell tickets, and it would be fun to watch.
For sure. Wednesday night's going to be fun to watch. That's for sure. And we hope everyone enjoys the game.
Get your popcorn. Pop your popcorn.
Yeah.
Buckle your seatbelt. Buckle your seatbelt. Get a big bucket of popcorn, because this game is going to be dramatic.
Yeah.
That I can tell you. I don't know who's going to win. It's going to be dramatic.
Yeah.
Somebody will get yellow cards. Somebody may get thrown out. Punches may be thrown. It's going to be dramatic.
We joke about the restaurants and their menus when they put the 3 little peppers because it's very spicy. Yeah. It has that potential tomorrow night for sure to have some of that. It's as close as you can get. And so they call it the Florida Derby, right? It has a nickname and everything. I mean, yeah, it's not a Clásico, obviously, but it's MLS. It's one of MLS's fun rivalries that it's turned into, and now even more with the kind of athletes that they have that are on the global stage like they are. But we'll see what happens. We'll be back next week with another episode of Inside Inter Miami to recap. We're going to be recapping not only that game,
everything,
but whatever happens, either the third place, right, either the bronze medal match or the championship match, which, again, those Sounders are on a tear right now. So, tough opponent if it ends up being them, or it could be the remarkable
rematch with the LA Galaxy that they just played.
This remarkable mini run of the LA Galaxy that's had an otherwise miserable season in MLS, but has found the way to make it entertaining for their fans in Leagues Cup. So all of that we'll go over. But we thank you, as always, for watching Inside Inter Miami. Remember to catch us on YouTube or at MiamiHerald.com. And remember to catch all of Michelle's coverage of the Leagues Cup this week and beyond at MiamiHerald.com. Until then, for Michelle, I'm Andre. Thanks for watching, everybody. Maybe we'll be back with a little mate next week to commemorate the festivities. Until then, take care.